we've been able to build out our income statement. And please, if we have any question, if you have any questions so far, please feel free to drop it in the chat. Let everyone learn from it. You might think the question is not reasonable, and it might be. So please stay open and ask a question if you have any. Okay, so we've completed our income statement, but it seems we are left with two key line items. Two, or that should be three, right? Which are depreciation, interest expense, and interest income. But before we can work on these guys, we need our balance sheet. We need our balance sheet. Now, we are going to replicate the same thing we did for our income statement, right? So which means we need to first go into our control account, into our control worksheet, right? And we also need to create another section. We're going to call this let's call this our balance sheet, our balance sheet list, right? And I can go to my historical financials and look out for our balance sheet. Look out for balance sheet. Okay, so for balance sheet, well, let's take it a step at a time. So let me copy this line item, copy it, and come here, come to my control accounts, and let me just paste it as value. Okay, I think I should just replicate the same thing. So paste it in here, and I can put it in our input, right? Just the same thing we did while we were sorting out when we created our income statement list, right? Then maybe let me add like one additional row below it. Okay. So let's work together. Let me slow down a little bit. Don't mind me, I can be very fast at times, but it's part of the training, you know. So go to the control account. Let's create either 4.2, and for 4.2, let's call it balance sheet list. I think let me put list in this income statement too. So let's call this balance sheet list. Okay, then let's have our assets. Let's go so you go to the historical FS. So just copy all the line item under our balance sheet. Okay, then come to your control worksheet, paste it, and just make it input. So more like we are just replicating the same thing we did for our balance sheet, our income statements. We're doing the same thing again for our balance sheet. But that should not take us time. So again, go to your control account below under our income statement list. Right, create another header called a balance sheet list. Then go to your historical financial statements, copy all the line item that we have in our balance sheet, and let's paste it down here. All right, now let's discuss the structuring of balance sheet line item. Now, balance sheet is very dynamic, and most times it also depends on the objective of the model build, right? Why most times, kind of for a typical corporate model, right, kind of deal more with valuation. Maybe they need to kind of see the business headroom to kind of test some level of convenience and some other thing. there are some specific line items that are mostly needed. Now, remember we said we have accountant structure, most times, which is not as if we are kind of denying what they've done, right? But because of our own objective and some key line item, the way we prefer to see it, we usually do some kind of restructuring. Now, uh, for company like Walmart, right? Most times you always have like limited access to data. And as I said, where you are limited to the data, don't waste your time trying to look for what is not lost. Okay. Now, for some kind of reporting, you see where some line items are being embedded into another line item. Now, those kind of line items can give problem. And I will give you example. Examples are trade receivables, trade and other receivables. So whenever you look at a financial statement, now you can see any line item with order. So trade and other receivables, uh, trade and other payables. You always need to go into the note to the accounts and check what have they added together before they will call it trade and other receivables. Because most times, by the time you go into the note, you realize that they've actually added some other line items that are really not driven directly by revenue. In such cases, you will definitely need to separate those line items so that by the time we are saying trade receivables, to certain level, we are sure. Right? The second thing is there are cases where you see a line item in current assets and non-current assets. And by basic accounting understanding, those kind of line items are meant to be maybe short term or maybe meant to be current assets or non-current assets. In such cases, you can merge both line items together. But before you merge them together, it's always good you also go to the note to the account and be able to understand if they are related to the same line item, and maybe because of standard reporting. That's, for example, if you have a loan under short term, under non-current liability, and you have another under current liability, if you go and check, they might be the same loan, just that standard is saying the amount that is due within the next 1 year should be categorized as a short-term liability. But for this our own, we are going to keep the line item the way they are. Even short-term, we put it at, we leave it as short-term. And by the time we build our model, you will see how we can also be how we can make provision for those one that is called short-term and the one that they are long-term. If they are the same line item, we see how we also do that splitting. Okay. So now for the balance sheet, let me look. Our income statement, what's the name that we give to? Okay, P&L list. So highlight all your balance sheet line item as well, including the blank row. And also let's call this BS. I think BS underscore list. BS underscore list and press enter. BS underscore list. BS underscore list. BS underscore list. All right. And then after that, let's have like so let's call it serial number. Let's number them. Let's number them. So I'll start from, I'll just put everything in input as well. Right. So my cash and cash equivalent 1, receivable 2, inventory 3. So just number them like that. Only the main line item. So receivable, property, plant, and equipment. So let's number them like this. We definitely need this. Let's create that numbering. Okay, so I think I have 27. So I have 27 line item here. So 27 line item. So excluding all those total, and the headers. So check to be sure you are not assigning number to those total or the headers. All right. So I hope we've done that. So as I said, remember for the restructuring, in cases I said, though most times when you are dealing with, I think the company like Walmart that use 10K or so, right? They don't usually have those kind of issues, right? Where they are summing up uh, line item that are directly not uh, relevant in terms of driver. For example, when you're saying trade and other receivables, right? Cases where you see that you need to go to the note to the account and check what are the order. So that by the time you are saying you want to forecast your revenue as your receivable as a percent of your revenue, at least to a certain degree, you are certain that you are comparing likes to likes. And when you want to calculate their net working capital for valuation, you are sure you are picking the pure line item needed. Okay. All right. I hope we've done that. Okay, so now one of our sample. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate our sample, and here I'll call this our C underscore BS. So this will be our calculation for our what? So our calculation for our balance sheet. Calculation for our balance. So please, if you have any question, you can just drop that in the chat box. I'm keeping eye on it. So this will be calculations, balance sheet, balance sheet. All right, balance sheet. So this will be output. This will be our balance sheet. And below it, you can have our calculation, just like the same thing we did for our income statements. Okay. And the next thing we need to do, right? So just to keep the formatting in shape. So what I will do is I'll come to this is my historical, since we are not changing any line item or anything. I will just copy everything like this. So copy everything I have from my historical, come to my balance sheet, right? The calculation and paste it, right? So I can now delete the values. So just leave all those total, leave the total line item with the formula in it, but every other value, just delete it. So delete it. So delete that, and then we can now properly link those line items to the list that we created. So let's link that straight to the list that we created in our control account. So let's link that. So I'm sure some of you might be wondering, why are we going through this extra mile of getting this done? This not stressful. Well, that's part of corporate finance model build, and especially when you are building for when you are building like a corporate model for a group entity that has different standalone different entity under them, right? This is always more like the best approach, where you make sure that they all maintain the same financial statement across to make your consolidation easier, right? It's just part of it. Then mapping is part of you being a data analyst and a financial modeler. Okay, so we have this, so you can just expand all the total down to the forecast period. Right? And below it, we can create our balance check. So balance check. Balance check is our total assets minus total liability and equity. And under the total column, you can just sum everything together. Always expect it to be 0. So again, after we've created our control and you've also assigned number to them, all the line items should be 27, right? Excluding the headers and the total. And said duplicate one of our sample that we created and name this calculation balance sheet. Okay. So just to keep the format, you can go to your historical, just highlight everything under our extracted balance sheet historical. So paste it in your calculation balance sheet, right? Delete all the line item, but leave all those total where we put formulas, right? So leave all those ones. Then the line item, make sure you link them straight to the control worksheet. Link them straight to the control worksheet. So just like we are doing the same thing we did for our income statement, right? Trying to replicate the same thing again. Then make sure you extend all the total to year 5. Okay. All right. So I hope you are good. Hope you are good. Okay. So which means we also need to do the same thing for our cash flow statement. We need to do the same thing for our cash flow statement. We need to do the same thing for our cash flow statement. Cash flow statement. But let me see. Should we do balance sheet first before we go to the cash flow? Okay. Okay. So let's extract our historical first for our balance sheet. So I'll just copy this, my header 1 and header 2, right? Leave like 2 rows. Then I can call this my calculations. Calculations. Okay. The calculations. Now under my column H. So I'm going to type 1. So what I want to do is I want to create like I want to create a schedule. So I'll call this let me call this line item 1. Okay. Line item 1. So line item 1, then I'm going to have like opening balance, or somebody call it balance carried forward or something like that. Either way. So additions, then what we are subtraction, and our ending balance. Okay, so below here I will have historical value. We just want to create like a schedule, and we will replicate it across for all the line item. Okay, then here then I'll call this balance sheet. So balance sheet links, so maybe just put like an header here. So financial statement link. So then it puts, so everything can just be under it. So it's the historical values. Then we have our balance sheet link. And then we also have our so cases where we need to link to cash flow link, and cases where we need to link to P&L link. Right, so I can put my currency there. So model currency. And this would be my schedule. So I think I can just use like a text join. So equal to my line item, the name of the line item, then just use like text join. So schedule. Just text join it to. Just make this like a yellow kind of thing. Okay, yep. So we are creating the schedule. Put this, underline this. So now, why are we doing this? When it comes to building a corporate model, one thing you might face, one problem you might face is balancing your model, considering you are coming from the historical stand to the forecast. Now, can be very, very difficult, right? And it can waste your time. You can waste time on it trying to find where. So what more like the good thing that you can do is to firstly create like a schedule, right? Such that by the time we create the schedule, we make sure that our balance sheet is balanced by default. More like we're replicating the last historical for the forecast period. So as we start doing the calculation, right, we see how the model automatically updates. If it is not balancing, we know that something is wrong automatically, right? So if you do your PPE schedule, you link it, and you see that it's not balancing, you automatically know that, oh, this line item that I link is what is causing the problem. It's easy for you to quickly find how you can fix that, right? As compared to you just building the model, and by the time you are done, you now start looking for where the imbalance is coming from. So before we do that, for our balance check here, let's create so equal to, if this my balance check total is equal to 0, right? Comma, should give us, so maybe like just double quote, just do like a double quote and just tell me balance sheet, balance check, right? Balance check. Okay. So if not, just give me so just give model error. I think that should be do. Yep. Right. So just use your if, right, and just that conditional statement. So I said, make sure you've done your balance check, which is your total assets minus your total liability and equity, right? Then under the total, just sum everything up, both historical and the forecast. Then for your balance check, just use your logical if function, right? If my total of the balance check is equal to 0, then open the double quotes. Just tell me balance check is okay. If not, come out, open the double quote, then just tell me the model has error. Most time when you kind of build a corporate model like this, you have like a section that represents the check, right? Where you put all your checks, and it's easy to map that out. But for now, let's just keep this. Right. So when you've created that balance check, go to your name box and just call this model underscore check. Enter, and you can put that on all your worksheet. I think we should use, row 4, right? So for my own here, row 4, just type equal to model check. So balance check, okay. So I can copy it, just go across all the worksheets and paste it there. So that will help us keep tab as we are working. At every point, the model must be balanced, right? It's always very good thing to do. Where you are working with a client where you need to be providing update every time, right? So that it's just kind of show them that, you know what, the model is in work in progress, and at every point, balance sheet is balanced. As if you're building the model and they're seeing imbalance everywhere, and they feel like, are you guys sure they are making progress like that? That just help you to keep tabs and even reduce your worry of balance sheet not balancing or balancing. Because at every point you post anything in your financial statements, you can check if it's balanced or not. Okay, so for my schedule, let's create the schedule. Let's create my schedule. So my opening balance will always be closing balance for previous period, right? And my ending balance will just be summation of my opening balance plus addition minus subtraction. So can always adjust the schedule. So we just need to create this, right? So at every point, your schedule just automatically capture everything. So check, make sure you're picking the right line item, because we are going to replicate this schedule across all of our, how many line items do we have? 27. Yes, so we just create one. I can keep tab of that. All right. So I think you should let me separate this. Okay, yeah, so historical, that's no problem. Okay. So add. So maybe you can even decide to put like a sign there. And we're deducting, putting that in subtraction. I think we did the same thing for our income statement. Okay, yep. All right. We're getting to the interesting part, by the way. All right, so are we good to go? Are we good to go? Any question? Any question? I hope we are on the same page. If you have any question, you can ask. All right. Now, so the first thing I need to do, this is my line item 1. So I also want that to automatically pick the header for me from my table list. So what I'm going to do is equal to, I think lookup should do. So lookup should look up for 1 right? You should look for this one so this one was hard coded. So what about taking the ratio of the balance sheet and forecasting the future? So right, so let's get the line item. So equal to, I think lookup should do. No need for us to use index and match. So lookup, you should look for this one, right? You should look for one, comma. Then I can think, since we created the list, we've created a name range for our list, or if not, you can just highlight all the line item here, so including the blank. So it's definitely going to give you that balance sheet list, right? Uh, oh, sorry. So let me do that again. So for lookup equal to lookup, you should look for this one, comma, in what? Come to my control. You should look for it in the list of these our numbers. You should look for it in the list of our numbers, right? Which I'm going to lock. Then comma, what should be my result vector? Then that's all the line item in our balance sheets. I can close my bracket and press enter. So you can see automatically it brings out cash and cash equivalent. So if you change this to 2, it's supposed to change it to 3, change it to 4, change it to 5, change it to 6. So that's the reason for that serial number that we created for each of the line items. So this automatically bring the header, right? And you don't need to be stressing yourself to say which line item is next. So this automatically make that switch. Okay, that's one. Then the second one is now our historical values. Our historical values, right? Our historical values. So what we are going to do is, so from our historical financials, where we have our balance sheet, right? So we need to bring these historical values, we need to bring them here automatically as well, using this same index number. So let me ask us, which formula do you think can help us do that? So what we want is, we want to be able to write a formula that we go into this our historical, right? And give us and bring this value under each of this period, right? So you look for cash, then give us all the values under cash. It goes to receivables, give us all the values under each period. So which formula do you think we can use? Let me hear from you guys. Index and match. Okay, yeah, I agree with you. Is there any other option? Is there any other option? Is there any other option? Is there any similar simple formula that we can use? I believe anyone in this session should be able to use index and match. So equal to index, right? Come to my historical financials. Then I'm going to highlight everything starting from my assets down to my total liabilities, right? Then I'm going to keep the row constant. Okay, comma, then match what? So match the name. Now the formula is looking too long. So what we can do is let me see. Okay, so what we are going to do first is this. This is what we are going to do. So let's match this one from the list of the line item that we have. So equal to, so match. So it's always good you try as much as possible to not let your formula wait too long, especially if you are linking it to another worksheet. So match, you should go and look for this one, comma, in what? In the list of in that control that we've created. So from the beginning to the end, so including the extra cell, and give us the exact match. So that's just automatically give us the match index, right? Instead of putting the, so I can just make this like ash color, right? So that just automatically give us the match ID, right? And when I come in here, all I need to do for my historical values, what I just need to do is to type equal to index, right? Come to my historical, then I can highlight from my asset line item that is blank down to my total liabilities. So I'll keep the row constant. So I can first put equal to 0, close it here, and it will split out, then come in here to delete that 0 and now reference that to the what? To this guy, which I'm going to keep the column constant. So by the time I copy the formula downward, the formula will automatically move as well. So don't log the entire row, because we just want to create a schedule, one schedule, and replicate it further. So I've pressed enter, right? And if I drag that across, this is what I'm getting. So you can now, because it's historical, you can multiply it. Okay, I think this is fine. At least you won't see any value for the forecast. So this gives us our historical, right? Hope that is clear. Hope that is clear. So instead, so at least just make the, so you see now it makes the formula a bit easier to read. So assuming we've put that index and match together, then you just see match coming and you just see the worksheet name, and it makes the formula look long unnecessarily. So create the match separately, right? Then create the index separately. Okay. So you're supposed to put it under historical values. Okay. Then for my sum, so now I will now need to update my sum formula here, which is my ending balance. So to do that, I need to use like if. So if my period counts up here, the one we have on our timeline, if it's equal to 0, what should happen? It should give us the historical column that we have here. If not, it should sum it up. Right? Let me do that again. So, we've created the summation of our schedule. Right? Now, we are not doing calculation for the historical. We only need that calculation for our what? For our forecast. So, which means I will need to edit my sum function. And that will be equal to if then our period counter that we have above here, which I'm going to keep the column and the row constant. If it's equal to 0, it should give us our historical value. If not, you should sum it together with the formula that we had initially and press enter. Right, that's just automatically flowing like this. That's automatically flowing like this. So for the historical, automatically pick the data. Then for the forecast, that's where we need to do our what? Our calculation. So you see now that it's getting a bit interesting, right? Right, so for the balance sheet link, so what goes to the balance sheet? So just definitely balance sheet, we always take the ending balance of the line item, right? By the time we start our calculation, we can always pull that out. Now for the balance sheet link, equal to, so I think just link that same thing to the header so that we have the same header here. Just like the same thing we did for our cash flow, our P&L, right? So we're just replicating the same thing. Let's copy that so that's like this. Yep. But for the balance sheet, yeah, cash and cash equivalent. So every other one, we can always, by the time we start the calculation, we can always do that. Okay? Is that clear? Any question before we replicate the schedule? So what happened is this automatically helps us keep the balance, the balance sheet balance, even when we've not started with the forecast. That's the good thing about this approach. right? So that you don't need to stress yourself trying to look for what is missing, what is not missing. So what I'll do is I'll just copy everything, highlight it like this from my 2.1 down to my P and L, so I can leave like a row. Then come down here, paste it. Then this my number one will equal to the previous number plus 1. Enter. So what happens is this automatically do what? Switch the data and everything. This can you so the historical link. Yeah, so for the historical link, right? So I said first come in here. Let's create like a match. So help us get the row number, right? So equal to match. So equal to match. So match of, you see that one that we had coded, right? You should go and look for where that one is in the list of this our, we've created like a control list, right? So highlight from the first row of our assets. So highlight it down. So it just kind of is looking for which row. So make sure you lock it, then comma and put 0. So put that 0 is very important to give us the exact match. If you don't put the 0, you might be getting another result. So what we are saying is, except we come in here and start counting from here. So row 1, row 2. Then when 1 is in row 2, then it's going to pick that up. Okay. Then for the ending balance, okay, yeah, then you can now go ahead with index. So that will be equal to my index. Index, what do we need for our index, which is our output? Come to your historical, then highlight also from the assets, which is like that blank. From there down to the total. So the reason you're also highlighting from the blank because the match is looking for those line items based on that. Okay. So remember, now this one you keep the row constant so that by the time you copy it down, you still maintain that range of row 44 to row 83. Right? So cut to, then just put something like 1. So when you get in here, when you come back to the worksheet, so I don't just to remove that worksheet name, then where you put that one, you can now reference it to that match unique ID that you created and you keep the column constant. Enter and drag that across. Okay, so with that, you can now just copy. So copy that same first schedule, copy it, leave a row, paste it below. Then you can go and update this your one that we had coded to equal to previous plus 1. Right. So what will happen is by the time we just start copying this, so we need 27. Always leave a row. So paste it. So it automatically switch and pick the data that you want. Right? Without you having to go ahead and be linking it one by one to avoid error of linking. So the fourth line item, just do the same thing across. Right? I can even decide to work smarter and recopy from schedule 2 down to the one I have in here. I can paste them below. So you just automatically split out and help us pick those data as we want them. Right, so we need 27 schedule. Just copy, paste to when we get to 27. Yep. So, okay, yep. So 27. 27 is where everything will stop. So you can go ahead and do the same thing. So create the first one. So make sure your cell referencing are properly done to avoid getting a wrong answer. So with this, by the time we link this straight to our balance sheet, by default, you expect everything to balance. As we now start doing our calculations, we know that, oh, we are linking this to this, we are linking that to this, like that. So at every point, we are sure that our model is always balanced. So replicate, copy, paste that schedule. Remember to change this yellow one into, after the first one, the second one should all be previous plus 1, leave a row between them. Yeah, someone suggested XLOOKUP. So, well, I'm not sure XLOOKUP is now available to all the public, right? So most times it's always good if you still have like our previous former formula that you can still use. Always good you just use them so that they are compatible across different version of Office. Can I do the balance sheet link? Okay, maybe you can do it the way maybe the way that you think can work for you, right? But or which one are you guys referring to? So this balance sheet link, it just so the way you would have put your index and match together, right? I just decided to put my own index, my own match separate first. I just decided to put the match outside for so that the formula is not long unnecessarily. But if you prefer to put it together, you can do that, right? So maybe if you want to use the index and match, then that means I think you might need to do equal to index, right? Come to your historical financials, highlight everything. I don't know, maybe you want to start from your cash down, right? Keep the row constant. Then you now put match. So what will happen is you come back to your balance sheet. You go and match this line item name, comma. So the line item name, you also need to keep the column constant so that by the time you are moving the formula to the right constant, then in the list of my line item name, right? Keep it constant, then give me exact match, close the bracket, twice, enter. So it still give you the same thing, but look at the formula. So this kind of look a bit long, right? And you can see historical match, historical FS, just make it long unnecessarily. As compared to this with just the index, it's quite straightforward. So either way, it will still work for you. So this is the formula. So just check. Okay, so the balance sheet link, yeah, it's just the ending balance. That's the ending balance because all the line item in a balance sheet represent ending balance, and that's what we flow into our financial statement. Yeah, so this is not so balance sheet. You're just linking it to the ending balance. Hi, Oga Musa, I'm not sure. Are you sure we are on the same page? Uh, so I'm doing this thing step by step, right? And if you are good on your own part, I think you can go ahead. But I think we are taking it a step by step, please. All right. So balance sheet link, you just link it to the ending balance. Ending balance, that's what is going there. So anything that will be going to cash flow from our schedule will also be linked there. Then we create that link ID, just the same thing we did for our uh, income statements, please. All right. So now that we've created the schedule for each line item, right? So the next thing that we need to do, so maybe I can just create, I think we did the same thing here. So something like ending. Just create so here. So maybe like row 440. So which means anything we want to do, we always insert a row above here. All right, we can call this worksheet end. Okay. And the same way we use that sum ifs to pick up those line items. That's the same thing we are going to do for our balance sheet as well. So equal to sum ifs, right? Sum ifs. Then I will highlight from my below my calculation schedule, right, down to where I inserted that worksheet end. And I'm going to keep the row constant, just repeating the same thing we did in our income statement, comma. Then my criteria range is my what? My column of that link cell. So please note that this method or this approach is not a must. If you are confident with your linking, right, where you are sure that you cannot face error of linking, you can just go ahead and be doing the linking one after the other. But most time this is always good, right? So avoid all those error of linking, right? And you be able to just know that you are just focusing on your calculation and you are sure that everything automatically link directly. Right? You don't need to finish the calculation, then now starts going to where you want to link it at the with just the unique ID, you just automatically pick that up, right? So comma, then my criteria should just, so I think we can just use the line item, or we can decide to create the one, so under that same link cell as we did for our income statement, right? So close the bracket, enter. Then I think we created data validation in our own, okay, in our income statement. So I think we should do the same thing here. We just create our data validation. So create our data validation here from our balance sheet list that we've created. Click OK. So here, if I select my cash, so if I select my cash, that automatically should flow in. Right, so that should automatically flow in. You can just create this. So inventories, so prepaid. Right, so as I'm copying the formula down, you see that it automatically pick them up. As I said, if you are confident with your linking and the whole thing, you might not need to do all this, go through all this stress, but you know what? It's kind of a very good approach to automate, to kind of build like a scalable model. Yeah, right. Call it one of this model that can scale through different things, right? And it's kind of just make you focus on your calculations and you are sure every other thing is linking correctly. But it can also be very bad as well, especially if the mapping does not match. You can spend days trying to figure out what is causing what and not, right? So as much as it is good, it can be very, very interesting at times. So operating finance. So you can see as I'm just changing the unique ID, everything just automatically flow in. Okay, so let me check. So it seems my balance sheet is not balanced on what is causing this. Okay, so I think I've seen where it's coming from. So that's why. So you see that the mapping must always be correct. If not, not sure it's something you want to experience when you are trying to figure out what is not. So you can see now. So with this, you know what has happened? Even though we've not done our forecast, right? By default, our balance sheet is automatically balanced, right? Just like the approach, most times when we are building our startup kind of thing, right? Where you pre-format the balance sheet to show. The same thing also apply here, right? So I'm thinking maybe should we color it or should we not color the forecast or something like that? Just let me look for one light color. That's too much. Just looking for like a light color to use. Okay. That's kind of show the difference between the forecast and the actual. Right? So please do the same thing. Check by default, everything's supposed to balance because what we've done here is we are keeping everything as at the last historical, which is January 2024, the same value for 2025 across board. So as we now start doing our workings, doing the linking, everything will automatically flow in here. So at every point, any adjustment you do will automatically what balance. So check, please, if you have, by the time you are done with your own and it's balanced, please just give maybe a thumb up in the chat box so that I'm sure we are all on the same page. And if not, so that I can know, maybe we need to take it slow and uh, stay calm and fix this before we go into the next one. So you can, now what we are trying to do is flow in the historical, right? And create schedule for each of the line item and also ascertain that the balance sheets are always balanced at every point. So we've not even started the forecast at all. Remember in income statement, we had to do the restructuring, right? And extract the historical. Okay, but now for balance sheet, because balance sheet, we need to always make sure that it is balanced at every point. So that's why we have to go through all this stress, right? It's always good you just go through it so that you can now focus on your calculations. And you know that as you are calculating, everything automatically do what? Flow in here. So corporate finance is trust me, it's kind of very hard a model to build at times, right? It's not always easy as the way you used to think that it should be just to grow revenue by 5% and everything. So you need to set up your model in such a way that we call it a scalable model, right? Here now, short every point, my balance sheet is always balanced. So you don't have to worry about, oh, my balance sheet is not balanced when you are done with the model. No, you should be able to do all those before you even start your calculation so that you can be able to monitor. So we create our receivable schedule, right? If our receivable is not balanced, we automatically know that, oh, it is because of our receivables. And it is easy for us to quickly do what? Check what is happening before we move on to the next calculation. So things like that are always very, very, very good. Right, so I'm waiting for you guys. If you've completed yours and everything is balanced, just give like a done in the chat box or a thumb up, something like that, so that I'm sure we're on the same page. And if not, maybe we should stop the session here, share the recording, and allow you to sort this first before we go to, because we still need to do the same thing for our cash flow statement. So once you preset the whole thing, right, you can now come back and we can focus on our calculation. Okay, so since I'm not getting any response, and since it's really getting interesting, so I think this is what we should do, right? I think we should call it a session here, right? So that we don't make it information overload. I will share the recording with us. We already have our WhatsApp group, so I will likely be dropping the link to the recording in the group chats as against dropping it on YouTube, right? If I want to be recording, I'll be putting it on YouTube. I think there won't be a need for us to be having a virtual session like this. So um, and you can also observe that we've reduced significantly at the reason I had to create the WhatsApp group, right? So I'm sure for you to have been here, get to this level, I'm sure at least your level of commitment is commendable. So this is what we are going to do. We're going to stop the recording here. I will share this with us, right? So that I'm not going to share my workbook with you, by the way. You also have, I shared the version that we started with. I shared that with you in my previous session. So I'm sure you should be able to pick that up from there. And then if you can make attempts, right, to just create our cash flow statement using the same approach that we use for both income statement and balance sheet, right? Duplicate, so create another worksheet and just call that cash flow statement, right? So the cash flow statement will at least if you just I think just at least challenge yourself to see if you actually understand this concept of mapping of a thing, right? And if not, if I say that most of you didn't get it, then maybe we might need to do it together in our next session. But please use the recording to complete your balance sheets, historical extraction, and creation of each of the schedule. Please remember to submit against the next session, please, before Friday close of business, so that I can review and also share my own version with you. Please, I should add you. I don't understand. Let me see, how many people do we even have in the group? Please, can you delete your number from the chat, please? Level 2. Let me see. So we have 18 people in the chat, and I can see 19 people online. So I believe if you were able to register for this session, it means you got the email. So read your email. There was a link provided to the WhatsApp group. So please check, right? Okay, so thanks everyone. We'll call it a session here today. I think it's getting really interesting, right? It's a lot of sacrifice and learning. The more you do, the more you get better at it. And it's just part of it. There's no magic way. So as I said, if you are confident in yourself, now maybe with your linking, right? I'm sure look at how many hours I've saved, minutes I've saved as compared to me having to do cash equal to come down here, link that here. I can mistakenly put link that to wrong thing and wrong cell, right? Causing another error. But with this approach, kind of make it easy for us. All right. So thank you, everyone. So if you're not, I'm not sure how you be in this meeting and you did not get the email unless you don't read your email. Please delete your number from the chat box. Please, privacy, please delete your number from the chat. Don't drop your number for me. That's why I included the chat link into the email. So maybe you want to go and check your email. Please don't put your personal details or personal information in the chat box. I won't be responsible for anything, right? Check your email. If you've registered for this, if you're able to join this session, right? It means maybe you didn't read your email. The link was included in it, right? All right. So thank you, everyone. Let's make sure we enjoy the rest of our weekend. I'll see you in the next session. Victor, do you know where I can get training on project finance? No, I don't know. Sorry. I think if you go online, you see different project finance training firm. If you go to Wall Street Prep, you can do some self-learning course online and things like that. All right. So thank you, everyone. Let's enjoy the rest of the day. Bye for now.